you're just replacing one protein with another. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I think for myself anyway, when the information was presented to me quite logically and in steps with the theory behind it, so my brain could accept it rather than it being some hairy fairy. I'm not saying you thought like that, but more, say me, some hairy fairy hippie diet or something like that. That made, I was able to go, oh, okay, well, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
It does. And, you know, sort of training-wise, I haven't sort of felt any different, really.
Okay.
Probably a bit lighter.
Yeah.
I think energy levels are good, although I tend to sort of get a little bit tired in the afternoon. I think it's trying to get calories without fibre is one thing.
That is a challenge.
You know, because I'm burning, even my run this morning, burned 1,000 calories before breakfast.
Yep.
So it's trying to get calories and, you know, without fibre, because I've actually dropped probably close to 3 kilos.
Yep. And I mean, that's pretty normal in my limited experience to drop that weight. How much have you been leaning into the fats?
Probably only with olive oil, avocado, nuts, I suppose.
Yeah. And so when, how much in a day, or how much, I suppose, so how many fats do you think you eat in a day? Can you sort of remember and go, well, I have half an avocado, or?
No, probably, I didn't have a high-fat diet to start with anyway, so...
Keep talking, I'm just going to make some notes.
Yeah.
Did you say you didn't have a high-fat diet to start with?
No.
Okay.
Probably just milk with cereal in breakfast, but now I've replaced it with oats and soy milk.
Yep.
Flax, chia, hemp seed.
Yep.
Banana, strawberries, blueberries.
Yep.
I'm still eating yogurt because I like yogurt. So that's the only fat really that I'm taking in at breakfast.
Yep.
Avocado, you know, Turkish bread roll for lunch, sort of thing.
How much avocado? Like a whole avocado?
A quarter.
Quarter? Yeah. Okay. Yep.
What else would I have? Probably a muesli bar, I suppose, during the morning with fruit.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of fat in that.
Yeah.
Probably a bit of corn chips and hummus when I get home.
Yeah.
Just CCs or something like that.
Yeah.
With a couple of handfuls of nuts or something.
Yeah.
Dinner is like a stir fry or something like that. So a bit of olive oil, some peanut oil or something like that in the stir fry.
Yeah.
Not very fatty at all.
Yeah.
And either sort of tempeh or tofu.
Yeah.
As a stir fry. And then, probably a bit of yogurt and muesli at night with a bit of fruit, some berries or something, strawberries and berries. So, and just sort of some toasted muesli or something like that. Go through the yogurt with berries and chia seeds or something like that. So that's about it. So probably, and really that's about what I was eating before. Yeah. Except I might have a steak or something like that.
Oh, hi, Will. Will's just making a racket.
Hey, guys. I sure was.
We can see your roof. We're going to be able to see up your nose.
Hello. One second.
While you're getting ready, Will, I'll just keep talking with Jim.
Perfect.
When maybe think about, pictures are flicking, when you were talking, Jim, and you were saying before you didn't have a high-fat diet, but before were you eating meat?
Yeah.
So meat, whether it be white, fish, red, is higher in fat than what your lentils, beans, all of that is. So you've probably really got to have a look at your diet, whether you, as accurately as we can try to be, is log your diet. Are you on MyFitnessPal or something of the like?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. So I would suggest, because there's no way we can even get closely to measuring it unless we actually measure it, like record it and put it in. Have you been doing that?
No, I'll start now because the challenge started yesterday.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
So,
Yep.
yeah, I was sort of waiting
for that. Yeah, because when we take the meat out of the diet, it's still our fat consumption. So, like, they reckon that the average Western diet fat consumption of a health-conscious person, so people who exercise and people who read the back of labels and maybe they count calories or macros or something, they reckon that that's at about 30 to 40%.
Yep.
So when you take the animal products out and then you introduce plant, it can, if you're not eating nuts and such, drop right down to 10, which is really quite a big difference.
Mm.
Yeah, so yours is probably still needs to be bumped up.
Yeah, more fat.
Yeah, absolutely, because if you're doing that much exercise, I'm a bit similar. When I start to exercise, because I'm not really at the moment, when I really start to exercise, I got to eat. And I'm not, I'm not a lean person. I am, but I'm not, I wouldn't, normally I wasn't.
Yeah.
I carried quite a bit of weight.
Mm.
So definitely I would say measure it for just for a few days, because we also don't want it to go too far down either. Your weight to drop too much, which basically just means you got to eat. I'm smiling because I'm going, poor you. Poor you. You got to eat some nuts. And really you might have to look at having nuts. So for me, I pretty much have nuts and seeds, breakfast, lunch and dinner.
Yeah.
So that's something, and maybe because I know seeds and nuts can become expensive, is if you haven't had a look on Two Brothers yet, their prices are fantastic.
Okay. Yeah. Can you buy them in bulk?
Yes, I do. So definitely get on board. Sorry, I'm trying to unmute these guys. Get on board and have a look at Two Brothers. Hi, guys. All right. Can everyone hear me?
I can.
Yep.
Everyone needs to make some sort of noise or something. Oh, look, a cat. All right. What time? Well, we can just sort of talk a bit. We've got about 5 minutes and then we'll get cracking into it. How is everyone?
Good.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Where do we go? Cool.
Hey, Christy.
Hey, how are you? You having dinner?
Sure am.
Has everyone else had dinner or yet to have dinner?
Yet.
Yeah, as well.
I think your cat's hungry. So can you guys see everyone?
No, I can only see you.
Oh, poor you guys. You're stuck with me.
I can see who's speaking. It switches to the person that's speaking.
Okay. So can you see that person, Jim? Is the person who's speaking come on?
Just saw the guy with the beard.
Yep, that's Will.
Will, yep. And now I'm looking at you.
Yep, okay. Cool. Okay.
I can see everyone. Sorry, guys.
Are you an IT nerd or something?
No, I'm not the team lead. I could just see everyone at the top and you in the middle.
It must be in the settings, hey, maybe. I don't know, so I can't help you. All right. Cool. All right, well, let's get started. Does anyone have any questions? We'll go through a few questions if there are any, and then we can progress into some of the vitamins and minerals and the food rules. That's where I really want to touch on, is the food rules. So does anyone have any questions?
Just a quick one.
Yeah.
I received the pathology request form in the mail today.
Yep.
That one?
Yep.
Now, on it, it's got fasting lipids. So does that mean it has to be done first thing in the morning before breakfast, or?
I actually don't know, Jim. I'm not sure. Does it not say it on there?
It is.
Have you done yours?
No, but I used to work at a GP practice, and fasting lipids is fasting.
Is
You need to do it before
okay.
breakfast. You can have water, but you can't have food.
Okay. How soon does that need to be done? Because work-wise, Friday is my earliest opportunity.
I think if that's what you can manage, then that's what you do.
That's fine? Okay.
Yeah. There's no, it's a couple of days. So, cool. Anyone else got any questions?
Yeah, so I wasn't too sure. I was doing one of the plans on your meal plan.
Yep.
And it had 38% sodium.
It what, sorry?
It had 38% sodium. And I'm not too sure, like, what's too much sodium? Like, just if I'm making my own meal or whatever, what percentage, like, is it too much bad, or I'm not really sure.
Well, it's hard to measure sodium because lots of plant foods have sodium in them. Yeah, so when sodium mainly becomes a problem when you're eating lots of processed foods.
Okay.
Yeah, foods that come out of packets, because generally speaking, of course, not for everybody, but generally speaking, if you're adding salt at the table, most people can't add so much salt that it's too much. Yep. So the recommended intake is half a teaspoon a day.
Okay.
Even if you think, if I was to tip half a teaspoon on my food, personally, I wouldn't be able to eat it. It would be too much. But if I went and had hot chips, or if I'm cooking with lots of salt, then we can have a lot more salt. So, sodium is it's good that you've asked that question, because sodium is really important, and also so is iodine, which is what is in sodium. But iodine is only in iodized salt. So quite a lot of the new agey salts, the rock salts, and they don't have it in there. So when people are health conscious, and I did it too, I stopped having what I call normal salt. I stopped having normal salt and started having rock salt. But then I run the risk of my iodine being too low. So, and it's actually a really important mineral to keep in your food. So the broad recommendation is that you use iodized salt, or you take a supplement. So I myself find it really challenging, because my tastes have changed so much. I don't really like it's about potatoes. If I have spuds, then I put salt on my potato. But other than that, I don't use it. So that's something that I'm even going, I think I might have to address it and look at taking a supplement.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because we're just using pink Himalayan salt.
Yeah.
And yeah, I haven't really been adding it to the food. You're right. Like I felt like I haven't really needed it that much. But as long as basically I'm not using table salt, that's kind of what you're saying, is it?
No, you want to use table salt. You want, and if I look down, I'm just writing notes so I can send you all an email. So you need to make sure that you've got iodine. And again, you don't have to remember all of this, because I'll email you guys and I'll just go through. So that's one of the things that you need to have a look at and see if it's included in your diet. All of these things can be quite a challenge to see, to include them in your diet. So I just got to unmute someone. Hi, Morris.
How you going?
Welcome in. So you do need to have a look at. There's nothing wrong with using table salt. If you're going to use the table salt, try and have an iodized version of it.
Yeah.
If you get stuck doing that, let me know and I'll do a bit of homework for you.
Perfect.
other than just your normal cheap old salt. Yeah. So, yeah. Cool.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Does that mean sea salt? I mean, like the little crystals there.
The more expensive stuff?
Yeah.
Generally, sea salt doesn't have iodine in it.
Mm.
Yeah? So iodine was something they put in the salt decades ago because of course, in different regions, it's in the soil, so it's not in all regions, of course. So they've added it to the salt. I think it was back in the 60s, at least. So yeah, so that's something to really have a look at, because iodine is important for thyroid function. So, and it leads to lots of thyroid. It can lead to lots of thyroid problems, hypothyroidism, and on the lower end of it being probably a major issue is fatigue, tiredness, sluggishness, all of that sort of stuff. That sometimes I wonder. I run around going, oh, I'm so tired, and I think it's because I'm so busy, but, it might be the imbalances in our diet. Yeah. And salt, I actually thought that, okay, well, you must be getting enough iodized salt if you're eating a lot of products, but products don't tend to use iodized salt because it's more expensive. Yeah, so if you're eating a lot of products, you're not winning either, because you're not getting the iodine there. So it's not only vegans, vegetarians, or whole foodies that are low in iodine. A huge amount of the population is low in iodine. So it's not only, vegetarians or vegans or the such. Yeah. Did that answer your question, Morris?
Yeah. What about, is it like, can you have, I suppose you can have too much salt though, but...
Absolutely, yeah. They reckon it's about half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of salt is the recommendation. Of course, that depends on the person. It depends on the amount of exercise, how much someone sweats. Some people sweat a lot, some people don't. So it's not one size fits all. Hang on, I just got to unlock someone. Hopefully I did it. Cool. Okay. Anything else?
No.
Did anyone get the opportunity to have a think about food rules, even just that we were going, or we are going to talk about that? Did anyone have a think about it and think it was a stupid idea, or was it a good idea, or no idea?
Yeah, I looked at it. I thought your ones, for example, the one you said, I don't eat standing up, and that's a good one. Yeah, I do that a few times. And the other rule, only eat fruits for snacks. That's a good one. You could add veg to that as well.
Yeah, well, I could. I'll go in and fix it.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I do, because if I can't say I'm a huge fruit eater, so I will eat a carrot and some cucumbers and some chopped up whatever as well. Just, I suppose it depends on how fast I'm moving. Grab an apple out of the fridge, or a banana and an apple or something like that, and hit the road.
Yep.
Yeah. So at any point you want to ask a question, please just stop me and ask, or write it down, and we can talk about it at the end, whichever is fine. Food rules, I'll see if I can open it. Food rules I have found have really, really, I say, kept me safe. I quite like rules and also don't like rules at the same time, but they've really, I still lack to find a way to explain how much it has affected how I eat. It's really cleaned it up, and it's really made it a lot easier for when I'm eating. Like so the first few were from a fellow named Michael Pollan, fantastic journalist. If you're interested in him, he's written quite a few books on nutrition. He's still likes to eat meat, which is fine because lots of people will. Definitely not everyone will become a vegan, and not everyone probably should become a vegan. Okay. All right, I'll just run through a few of them. Any questions, let me know, because I'll try and put some idea of why. Okay, well, the first one is I don't eat animals. Yep, so there's a few different reasons, morally, environmentally, economically, health-wise. There's another one I can't remember, but there's some of the reasons why I choose not to eat animal products, and I used to eat a lot of them.
And do you like animal products?
No, it took me. I swapped overnight. So I was in the middle of a competition. I won't go into too much story. I was in the middle of a competition, and I'd spent, as I scratch my head, I spent about the last, I think it was about 8 months, and I'd read about 100 odd books. Some the same book over and over, because I tend to have to read things a few times to get it in my head. So I'd read about 80 to 100 books, and on the economics of agriculture, of the politics, of moral issues, of all these different ways to look at it. And then I was in my car driving, and I just went, I just can't do it anymore. I just couldn't do it. And I was driving, and I went, what the hell's a lentil? I didn't even know what a lentil was. And I went, it's dal. It's dal. So I ate dal straight for about 2 weeks. And luckily at the time I was competing, so I was doing cardio every day, and it was winter. So I would get on my elliptical trainer, and every day for an hour I'd watch cooking shows. So that's how I ended up broadening my very fixed mindset on food. So yeah, and so now I would never have. I just wouldn't have believed it. It's quite astounding to me. I've lost the taste for sugar. I've lost the taste for salt. I'm not interested in animal products in any way, and my taste buds have really refined, maybe, or changed. So, but it took a while. It took a good 12 months. It took a good 12 months to not want to eat meat or any animal products. So yeah, but I also had different reasons for doing it. So I wonder if, because it wasn't just a health issue for me, I feel like that made it easier for me to be able to not want to do it. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah.
Whereas if it was health, like I don't want to eat chocolate anymore because it makes me unhealthy, and then, oh my God, I have some emotion overcomes me, and into the chocolate I am. Yeah, my health goes out the window. So, but because it's backed up with a heap of other information and a heap of other reasons, it's then a lot easier. So if I use that sugar, it's a lot easier for me to open the fridge or whatever and go, I'm not eating that sugar because it's bad for the environment, it's bad for my health, it's bad for the economy, it's chews into bad politics, blah, 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 blah. Did that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And if it didn't, say no, because sometimes I talk around in circles. So, all right. The second one, I don't buy food out unless it's planned. That's actually probably one of my most useful rules. And what I mean by that is, in the past, I would have been out shopping or out in some environment so I could smell foods or something like that. There was, all these smells of these foods assaulting me. I would think I was hungry, feel hungry, because all of those outside, that environment was influencing that, and I would then eat something, or I'd have to white knuckle it through. I'd have to, no. So when I made that rule, it was like, I'm not buying food unless it's planned. It just makes it easier. I just go, well, that's just a rule. So, and as I'm saying that, it sounds, well, it is. It's very, very simple, but it's just a rule. And I've had to practice it. It didn't just happen like that. I have had to practice it. But even some of the reasons why I have that rule is because I don't buy food out because it's more expensive. And our budget has dropped dramatically since we've changed the way that we eat. I'm laughing at the cat. It's okay. So I don't buy. One of the reasons when I need to, or when I needed to more in the past, is I don't buy food out because we keep a really quite budget with our food. At the moment, we spend $200 a week on food, and that's for all of us. And so $10 for sushi out of $200 is actually a big chunk of my food budget. Does that make sense? So that's just one reason that it's really easy for me to go, nope, I'm not going to buy that because it costs me more money. It's taking out of that budget. One, it's food, it's food I can go home and make. And also, like you alluded to before, I would more than likely be eating it while I was shopping or eating it while I was it wasn't a mindfully planned meal. Yeah? All right, I'll go on to the next one. And I'm more than likely not bloody hungry. I just saw it. Or I smelt it or whatever. I'm not hungry. Okay, no added sugar. So I have a pretty this rule, again, I'm going to think all my rules are great, of course, because they're my rules. So don't worry if you don't think they're good. So with the sugar one, I find that really helpful because that pretty much knocks any product on the head. If I say no added sugar, almost anything that comes out of a packet that's been highly processed has got sugar in it. So that one rule is like a blanket rule for cutting out all the crap. Yeah?
But does this imply when you read the ingredients and one of them is saying sugar, that's the rule? Yeah.
Pretty much. And I mean, and these rules, of course, so there is room to move because I buy canned tomatoes. So there's sugar in canned tomatoes because that's a preservative, yeah? So you do have to, and this is why I want you to think about it, because your rules have to make sense to you. They have to be made because you make them. So then when you want to push against them, and let me tell you, you will want to push against them, you've got all these other reasons why. I don't buy that. I'm not doing that because of this reason, this reason, this reason. And those reasons will outweigh whatever emotional or thinking process you're going through at the time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You've really got to think about them and go, okay, what's going to work for me? I only buy products that I could make in my own kitchen. So defining the word product is really important. So the broader definition in a whole food plant-based diet is that we'll buy the product if I could make it at home. Soy milk, any of the nut milks I could make at home. Tofu I could make at home. I could make homemade muesli bars like you were talking about before, Jim. These types of foods, muesli bar was not a good example, but if you add the no added sugar, then that knocks out almost all the whatever you call those things, muesli bars. Yep. I forgot where I was at. Okay, yeah. So if I can make it in my own kitchen, it generally means that it takes very minimal processing to make. It doesn't need huge machinery, yeah? It hasn't gone through all these, it hasn't got a heap of chemicals in it, hasn't gone through a heap of processes to turn out like a protein bar or a protein shake or something like that. Does that make sense? Because I don't have the time to make nut milk in my life. I have canned beans in the cupboard just in case. I do make my own, but I have them in the cupboard for when I can't be bothered or I haven't, they're there as well. And initially, I probably used all canned beans initially because I was working 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. It was crazy. So, and I still managed to be able to eat that way. Snacks. So nowadays, if I'm hungry, I will eat snacks, eat fruit or vegetables, as you pointed out, Will. So that's pretty much a snack. And in my thinking, and from when I remember back to being a young person or a kid, that was snacks. Snacks was, excuse me while I just let someone else in. All right. Hello, Max.
Hi Chrissy, how are you?
You got in, you dropped out a couple of times.
Yeah, I've trying to get the hang of it.
All right, cool. We're just talking a bit about food rules, but all of it, I'll email you with what we talk about, so don't worry.
I think I caught the last 10 minutes or so, I think.
Oh, good. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably most of it, I'd say.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Where was I? Yep, so fruit, pretty much. I personally don't snack on nuts a lot. Probably more so now because I'm not really exercising at the moment. I just walk. I walk maybe 5 days a week just because my life doesn't facilitate and I can't really be bothered, to be honest. So I'm still training. I maybe train once, twice a week, but I'm in and out of that gym in 20 minutes flat. So my training's very minimal and I walk. So if with my body shape, I like to be the leanness that I am now. So if I eat too many nuts and too many of those high fatty foods, then I don't hold this leanness. So again, that's just a choice that this is the way I want to look and feel. So therefore, I do have to limit those nuts. Some people don't have to. And if, for instance, I was exercising more regularly, then I could eat more. Does that make sense? Yeah. So the plant fats you do need to be conscious of because they're still fat. They're still highly concentrated calories. So if your aim is to lose body fat, you do need to really have a look at how many fats you're eating. You can't just eat pulp. Most people, some people maybe, but the majority of people, you can't just stuff your face with nuts. And a serve of nuts is about 12 almonds. I mean, who gets 12 almonds out of the almond jar? Not many people. You're laughing, Jim.
I go a handful at a time.
Yeah, I know.
And then go back to the walnuts.
So your fats you do have to look at, and we'll probably go back and talk a bit about fats. I'll just write that down. All right, what's next? And I did say, Max, at any point you have a question, just shoot it out.
Yeah, okay.
One of the rules that I brought in was I only eat sitting down. As I was saying before, when we first opened the gym, we were working 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it was and then I was coming home to 3 kids, and it was just crazy. So I would, very badly, I'd be eating in the car. I'd eat in the car because that was when I would sit down. So I'd eat standing or I'd eat in the kitchen, and I'd been probably practicing that for a long time. Not so much the eating in the car, that was more pressure that I felt when we opened the gym, but I was, at that point in time, that's what I was doing. So I brought in a rule that if I wasn't sitting down, I just wouldn't eat, and it really revolutionized how I ate. And I don't think I've put that in there, but I don't eat as a rule in front of the TV. Every so often we might sit down and, I don't know, watch some kids film with Mary Jane and have something, but I can't remember the last time we did it. So, and 2, because the one meal that we tend to have together some nights a week is dinner time. So, there's no electrical goods. It's actually a bonding time at that time as well, whereas before it wasn't so much. It wasn't so much. So, but I would have to say probably more than anything is that the sitting down rule, I mean, I would walk and eat. Yeah, I mean, how many people, the more and more I feel like I'm maybe growing in wisdom, the more I see people walking down the street, they're eating their lunch. There's no way you can be consciously aware of what you're eating if you're about your busy day and eating. To think that, what did I eat? You just can't, most people can't. So
with that one,
yep.
Just a quick one on that. So I hear a lot about overeating and all this, and mindless eating. But if you've planned out your day, and I agree with your thing about sitting down. I think it's a good way to just chill out. But if you planned out your day and you've got your lunch and all your meals set out, and you're walking, you're mindlessly eating it. But if your day's meals are set, you don't need to be able to remember what was there because you've planned it in. It's not like you had an extra lunch by mistake.
Yeah, and you're right. And I think maybe, well, what sticks out for me is just even when, and we both use the term, is mindless eating. Yeah? Yeah, and that's something that you guys will have to figure out for yourself. I mean, I'm a bit of an extreme person. So with what I'm eating now, it wasn't like it before, and I'm not suggesting that you need to be like it. It's just how I am. I want to enjoy my food. Yeah, I want to appreciate my food. I want to be grateful for my food. So that's how one of the ways I do that. But it has to work for you, Will, too. You know, if you guys are, like, if you guys are busy and working, and it means that you're actually standing up and eating, or you're eating in the car, or you're eating on the run, if that works for you, if that's, say, if you're doing that and that works in your lifestyle, but you've got, like you said, well, everything else is planned out, then is it bad? Well, that's not for me to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, I agree with your rule. Personally, I think it's a great rule, for sure.
All right. Okay. I eat 2 or 3 times a day. We briefly talked about this last week, I think. I practiced a bit of fasting for about 18 months, and I did 7-day water only fasts, and then down from that. It's all different. There's so many different protocols for fasting. I actually forgot all about putting anything about fasting on the website. So that is still to come, to just give you an example of all the different types of regimes that people use, because then you make it work for your life if it's something you want to do. I think it's got some really fantastic benefits for health-wise. I'm going to say this, but I might retract it, but I'm going to say it out loud and see how it sounds. I don't think it's a very good weight loss tool, probably for most people. That's only based on my own limited experience. Some people it works really well with. It can work really well with people who are really fat. So people who are really obese and they eat once a day. It can work really well for people like that, because they need to lose that body fat. Some of the reasons why I think it's not a good idea for maybe the broader beginners, if I call people who are just sort of broaching into it, because if someone was going to eat once a day, unless you're someone that has the capacity to eat a huge amount of food, 2,000 calories in a meal, or if you're a smaller person and you've got to eat about, 1,500 at the least, say, to be able to, there's no way I could sit and eat 1,500 calories unless I loaded it up with fats. I just wouldn't be able to get all the vegetables. Jim, like you were saying, the fibre will take up the space and you can't get the calories in. So if you're thinking about fasting, and again, this is just my opinion, what I'm about to say, intermittent fasting, in my opinion, and if I piss you off, I'm sorry, is not fasting. Yeah, fasting is long fasts. It's a form of fasting, but the difference between 12 hours and 16 hours is it's bugger all. Yeah? So it can work for people. I mean, it definitely works for people, but probably if I look on Instagram or whatever it is, or even there's all these ads that come up, a lot of people are using the fasting as we've used every other dieting method to eat shit. If I won't eat for this period, or I'll cut back this, whether it be calories, macros, or meals, I'll cut this back, and then on the weekend I can drink this and eat shit, or I can eat ice cream, or I can eat, yeah. So that's one of the things with fasting, is just to look at your motivation behind fasting. If you're someone who hates breakfast and it's been jammed down your throat that you've got to eat breakfast, then don't eat it. You just then make sure that you're trying to get enough meals in the rest of the day. Yeah. Did that sort of make sense, all that?
Yep.
Yeah, and again, like I said, that's just my opinion because it does. Some people, intermittent fasting works fabulously for. But it's watching, does intermittent fasting go along with a ketos diet? Does it go along with the Atkins diet? Does it go along with eating crap at the end of the week or at the end of the night? So it's just, there's so many things that add up to a good diet that need to be taken, that need to be thought about.
So can I just ask on that one? So regarding intermittent fasting, so assuming I was eating a clean diet all day, every day, no crap ever, it doesn't matter over what period of time I'm eating that meal, so as long as it's clean all the time. So I can eat it snacking over 24 hours, eating 4 calories every 10 minutes, for example.
I would say no, because your digestive system needs a rest. Yep. So like if I say, when clients come in, I pretty much say, if I can give you everything in about 5 seconds, what you need to do. Eat 3 times a day, only eat plant foods, and fast for 12 hours a day. Predominantly, if everyone and don't snack in between meals. Yeah. If everyone followed that, a lot of our health problems would diminish. Yeah. So with what you're saying, Will, maybe do some research on it and have a think, because our digestive system needs to take a rest. And because if I'm constantly eating all of the time, I'm constantly, especially in our current state of health or unhealth, I'm spiking my insulin. So every time I'm spiking my insulin. Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, it's a hard one to answer, because if I was a really skinny person, if I was a ectomorph, really, really skinny, and found it hard to hold weight, then those people do need to eat. You know, they're like a giraffe, you know, they got to eat all the time. But I'm not built like that. Yeah, so there's a few things you've got to look at and work out.
Cool. So when you say don't snack between meals, so let's say I do the 2 or 3 meals and you say don't snack, does that mean then I need to be eating my fruit at the same time as I'm eating my dinner and veg, let's say, to get the fruit in that diet?
No. And that's what I said, as a general rule, I'm eating enough at breakfast, lunch and dinner to not need to snack. But if I do, then I have fruit. Okay,
but I'm not saying I would need to snack. I'm actually, a lot of my eating is like, I need to eat this many calories and I should eat 2 pieces of fruit. So my breakfast, lunch and dinner, they keep me full, but I'm like, I need to eat an apple today, so I'll eat it in the middle. So realistically, it'd be better if I ate it close to lunchtime or close to breakfast.
Yeah. Because again, that's looking at how your diet works over your day. And if you're getting enough at breakfast, lunch and dinner, you don't need to snack unless, and most days I probably don't. So it's just some days I'm busier or I'm burning more calories or whatever it is. Yeah? Does that answer that question?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so the next question is, I eat dinner generally well before 6 o'clock, just so I have that long fasting time. So that's, and again, if you're eating later, not so much health conscious people, but if people are eating later, the general population will tend to be eating crap in front of the telly so that's it is important to have a look at having that long break, unless you're doing a lot of exercise, unless you work until 9, 10 o'clock at night. And then, so there are different lifestyle factors that slightly adjust that. Yeah? Okay, what have we got? And if I'm not hungry, I don't eat. And that was actually a really hard one for me because I was so used to eating 5, 6 plus meals a day, I thought I was hungry. But when I first started fasting, for the first 6 months, all I did was practice feeling hungry, because I didn't actually know what hungry felt like. And hunger, even though it is a sensation, hunger isn't lightheadedness. It isn't being faint. It isn't all of these things that I did experience. I experienced oh my God, I'm hungry, I can't concentrate. All this stuff was going on. And I can't think of what word. I blamed it. It's not the right word, but I'll use it. I blamed it on being hungry. There's a term that they now use called toxic hunger. I'll just write this down so I can remind myself to tell you. So there's a term that they use now that's called toxic hunger. And what that refers to is the withdrawal of the foods that we eat, the salt, the sugar, the fat, the products, basically, and the animal products as well. Yeah. So they're now using that term toxic hunger to describe that feeling of feeling lightheaded or shaky or emotional hangry, as Red Rooster likes to put on their signs. Yep. So it's when I did that for about 6 months, and when you're actually, and I was listening to people tell me this and I didn't know what it felt like. When I'm actually hungry, it's a sensation in my throat or in my chest. It's almost got nothing to do with my stomach. It's not a real rumbling of the stomach. It's a really different sensation, and it's really hard to explain it because I wouldn't have been able to, I didn't know what it was. When I'm hungry, I'm just hungry. I'm not emotional, I'm not unreasonable, or I'm just, okay, I'm hungry. And then I will eat. Sort of makes sense? Again, it's hard because there's very few times for us generally in the Western world or in our society where we are actually hungry, because there's food everywhere. I mean, we buy food at the service station. Or we call food that comes out of the service station food. Yeah, so there's food everywhere. So a lot of us don't actually know what hunger is. Yeah, so that might be something you want to have a play around, maybe, or maybe not. What I will say, because I'm pretty sure some of you guys are doing fasting, some form of fasting, intermittent fasting or longer fasting, is when I decided to stop fasting and go back to eating 3 times a day, it was actually hard because I'd done so many long water only fasts, you're not hungry. You don't feel hungry. So I'd go all day, I wouldn't be hungry. And then I'd eat dinner. And the reason it wasn't working for me was what I referred to before, was there's no way I could get in as much food as I needed to. So all I was eating, there's no way I was getting enough calories. And I was just getting skinny. So, so if you are fasting, you have a protocol of fasting, it does take a period of time to get hungry, to be able to, for your metabolism to start again. Again, preparation, for me in this household, preparation is key. If I wasn't prepared, it would be a nightmare. I think it would be much harder. So I've had the opportunity to practice that for the past 20 years because I've been competing for 15 years, or had been competing for 15 years. So it's very much an easy tool for me because it's a habit, just because I've practiced it. And my mum was this hardcore dieter, so I got to watch that. She had food, was always organised. So when to be prepared when I'm cooking, if I'm making up a lentil or a bean or something, some dish like that, I always make extra. So say, I'll give an example. So say 1 week I might make one flavoured dish. I might make one dish and I'll make extra. And then I put the extra in the freezer. And then maybe at the end of the week or the next week, I make a different flavoured dish. And then I put half in the freezer, half in there. And then the next week. So when I open my freezer, I have got, depending on how anal you get. I mean, if I open my freezer now, there must be like 10 different meals in there, full size meals that I then will just add my veggies to. I'm really excited about this, so I'll share it, and you might find it helpful. I'm really surprised I didn't know about it. I've been chopping my vegetables now with a food processor. Does anybody do that? It's fantastic. So before I used to chop all these vegetables up. Now I just individually chop these vegetables into this bloody big food, not a blender. It's got to be a food processor. Chop it into this food processor and it comes out like a fried rice. So it's a really, really efficient way and quick and easy way to chop your veggies up. And then you're basically, you know, looking at a bowl with like a rainbow of colours if you use lots of colours. So that I really love. Everyone else loves it because they don't have much choice because I'm a cook. So, but that's a really easy way I have found to be prepared. And also I've got these big glass. They must be maybe 5 litre containers. These glass with a plastic lid container, and I've got. When I make up the salad, I make up 3 of those. So there's like 15 litres of vegetables, whatever vegetables I'm using, I've got in the fridge at one time, and then I use them. They stay fresh. If you've got, I think they're just called Decor. Is it Decor? They've got a glass bottom with a coloured lid. So, and they sit in the fridge easily for 5 days, and they're still nice and fresh. And I don't know why, but going through the processor, they stay fresher. So maybe if you've got a food processor, give it a bash and see how you go. But it's a really, really good way I have found to have my veggies. And also, if I want to then, all of that, so if I pull out those raw veggies out of the fridge, I then can turn that into a stir fry. It doesn't have to be a salad. Yeah, so if you've ever had... what's the white vegetable called, like broccoli? Cauliflower fried rice. It's the same thing. Yeah, so it's just another way to have a meal. What else? Oh, I said, yeah, I limit high-calorie foods, the fat foods, just because at this point in time, I like how I'm sitting. So if I didn't want to be as lean as what I want, I can't get it out. You know what I'm talking about? If I didn't want to be this lean, then I could eat more. But I like it, so this is where I stay. And I definitely don't go hungry. I don't go hungry. And I measure my food in the plate that hopefully most of you have seen. So half of my plate is vegetables and or fruits. It tends to be more vegetables for me with just 1 or 2 fruits in there. And then very, very crudely, I suppose, a quarter of the plate is protein and the other quarter of the plate is a carbohydrate. Noting that when you're on a whole food plant-based diet, it's all protein. It's almost all carbohydrates, and it's depending on the food, even broccoli, it's all fats. Yeah? So even though I've broken my plate up, it's still, they're all there. I had a question about almond milk and the protein in almond milk. So, and Powers has put that in the...
protein.
As a protein. But it's a protein, it's a carb, and it's a fat. So when I'm saying we, but of course I don't know what everyone thinks. We tend to look at protein in a limited way. I go, like I just said, there's half a plate of vegetables, above ground vegetables, and there's a quarter of a plate of protein. What about all this half a plate of protein over here? Full of protein. When you, and it does take time, it takes time and it takes homework to get this right. It takes time and it takes homework to get any diet right. You have to, just like your exercise program or your work or your relationships, you have to think about it and you have to do the homework behind it to set up what works for you. That sort of making sense what I'm saying? It does require your time and it does require work. And I think a lot of us, a lot of people think that maybe we want it to be easy, but you have to work. You have to do a period of working it out. You have to work it out in your lifestyle. You have to work out what food you like to eat. You have to work out it in relation to the people in your life. It doesn't take long, but it's just knowing how to do that. All right. Any questions so far?
Yeah, what about coconut milk? I prefer coconut milk over almond milk any day.
Then drink it.
But it's high in fat.
Well, okay. Okay, so it's high in fat. Are you drinking coconut milk out of a can or out of a milk carton type thing?
Yeah, carton.
Okay, so have you compared the fat content in that? Again, Morris, if you go on to, and I do encourage you guys to do it, is to go on to MyFitnessPal. It's probably the most usable one, or Calorie King, but I haven't used Calorie King for a long time. But MyFitnessPal, it does require a bit of work, and there was a period of time where I was like, oh God, I've got to do this working out, pain in my ass, but you got to do it. So, and record what you're doing, record what you're eating. Also remember that it's not exact, because when a calorie is measured, it's measured in a confined environment. So when I'm measuring coconut milk, if I'm a scientist, which I'm not, but when a scientist is measuring the calorie content in this coconut milk, it's in a controlled environment with that one product, with that one food. And the coconuts that went into that coconut milk will not be the same nutritional value as the next set of coconuts. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's a very broad, calories they're just an indication. I don't want to confuse you so much, or confuse myself is probably more importantly. They reckon that a pound of vegetables is about 100 calories per pound. That's a lot of vegetables. They reckon fruits is roughly, estimated at 200 calories per pound. So I'm saying that to just, vegetables you can sort of class, it's quite a broad spectrum. Did I explain that okay?
Yeah.
Didn't balls it up too much. So Morris, the only way you can actually know what you're eating, and again, it's not exact, but the only way you can know what you're eating is by measuring it. And MyFitnessPal has a massive database of foods. So there's very few foods that I found I had to go in and actually manually look it up and add it in myself. If you get on MyFitnessPal and you're putting something that happens to not be there, or, for instance, you make your own food and you've got to sort of guesstimate what's in there, you've then got to manually put it in. But you only then put it in that once.
MyFitnessPal, I use that a ton. It's excellent. You can even scan barcodes of anything you buy in Woolworths or Coles.
Yeah.
It's got a massive database.
Yeah, I've not tried that yet, Will, but I did. I'd forgotten that it could do that. So, I've not done it. Yeah, it's
very quick.
Yeah, it's definitely the one to look at. It's definitely the one to look at for measuring your food. And I would definitely encourage you to do it, and probably do it fairly religiously for anywhere from 2 weeks to a month, which I know is it's not really a long time, but it can be a bit tedious, but it does pay off, because as you, in the process of entering the food in, you're actually learning and thinking. You're going, oh, okay, coconut milk has got, it's got 500 calories more than soy milk. So I can't afford that many calories, so I've got to drink soy milk. Yeah? They are not the calories either. So not even close. All right.
Coming back to the MyFitnessPal, if you review your diary over the last day, or you can go by month, it can show you the fat, carbs, proteins over a month, or even a nutrient you're interested in, calcium, vitamin A, vitamin D, you can graph all that exceptionally very well over months.
Yeah, it is. It's really good because if you've not been on MyFitnessPal, as Will's saying, when you scroll down to the bottom and you click on nutrition, it will tell you your macros, I guess a rough macros, and it'll tell you your calories, and it breaks your meals down. And like Will said, it'll do it week and monthly as well. So you're basically then looking at your plate. It'll show you a picture of the plate of what you're eating, and it'll show you your breakdown: 65% vegetables, whatever, 25% protein, blah blah blah, 15% fat. Yeah, so if you've not done that, I would definitely recommend. That's a really good tool to use. All right. Any other questions? Shoot them.
One quick one.
Yeah.
White rice, white carbs compared to brown rice and like the lentil pastas when you're actually doing a lot of endurance running.
Yep.
I'm finding I'm going for those rather because, like we were talking about earlier, even though they're more processed, they're less fibre.
Yep.
And more carbohydrates.
Yeah. I only read about this just recently. The lentil pastas, they apparently keep the exactly the same nutritional, what's the word I'm looking for, breakdown than the whole food. So if you're eating chickpea pasta, bless you. If you're eating chickpea pasta, it's still a whole food. Apparently, yeah, it doesn't lose. I don't know very much about it. I just know that I read about that. Okay, your question, Jim.
Loading.
Yeah, I'm just thinking. My brain is thinking.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, like we were saying earlier, to try and cut down on fibre but still get carbohydrates. And I'm actually eating white rice and white or normal wheat pasta before long runs, especially like 3-hour long runs, which I've got on Saturday.
Well, and are you loading days before? I think I remember you saying.
Not during training.
Okay.
But pre-marathon, then I will load prior to it.
Yeah.
Generally before a long training run of 3 hours, say, which I've got on Saturday.
Yep.
It'll be a basic spaghetti dish with half a can of tomatoes, some used to be anchovies, but now I've sort of gone mushrooms or a little bit of tofu.
Yeah.
Something not too fibrous.
Yeah.
With just some capers, black olives, and a few herbs and spices.
Yeah.
Just stirred through the spaghetti.
Can I ask you a question? Jim? Are you still?
Just got here.
Yeah. How you going, guys? Are you still dropping weight? Like after a 3-hour run, you're still dropping quite considerable weight?
I haven't weighed myself because I don't have scales, but
you feel like you are?
I have to do that because I think before I was generally around 74, so probably about 2.5 in 3 weeks.
Yep. So I was just thinking, probably tracking it for that 3-hour run on a Saturday. That for the training. If you are still dropping the weight and you don't want to be dropping it as drastic as you are, what Christy suggested with the loading out, you may have to just start loading out from a training session as well. Because if you're not retaining the night before, if you just can't get the food in, well, you might just have to start loading up and getting those glycogen stores really full a couple of days in.
Yeah, because I'm just finding with the extra fibre, it's just going straight through.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what when before everyone else came on, Jim, because that meal, have a look at adding cashew nut cream to your food. Yeah, because you want to add some fat. You need some more fats in there. You're not getting enough fats. So one of the ways, rather than eating handfuls of nuts, even though you can probably eat a fair few handfuls of nuts, is to turn it into a cream. And cashew nut cream, guys, is really, really fantastic on salads and vegetables. And you can actually, again, because like I was saying, I try to keep, my fats, and they're definitely not low, but I do have to monitor them, is I make up the cashew nut cream I freeze it. So again, I make it in bulk. In Kmart, they've got these like quite large ice trays. They're quite big ice trays. So I freeze. I mean, if you go, can you go grab just a green bag? So I make up the cashew nut, and that cashew nut is then a base for, you can then flavour that dressing. So say like for you, Jim, that I was just about, we were just talking about, is if you're making up a big pasta dish, get out some cashew nut and then just drizzle it on that. Use that in your sauces or on the final meal. Because, you know, if you're because I water mine down, is what I was getting to before, because I don't want the calories to be too high. I water it, I add more water to it so it lowers the calorie density to it. But when you're wanting to maintain that weight or add on, you then would have it just as is. It would be, you know, predominantly cashew nut. So can you see those little squares there?
They're not that little.
They're not. Yeah.
They're quite large. They're about 2 centimetres squared. So quite large.
So that one there, I would pull 2 of those out, and then I defrost it, and then I water it down a little bit more, but Jim, you wouldn't. I water it down a little bit more, and then I can either just tip that straight over my salad because it's delicious just as it is, or flavour it up.
Yeah.
Yeah? Has anyone else tried the cashew nut cream?
No. How do you make it?
It's on the recipe, but it's super, super easy. I make up 2 litres at a go. So, I mean, not everyone might want to do that. So you have, what's the least? If you've got 1 cup of cashew nuts, I also use walnuts for the omega-3s. So I'll go 1 cup of cashew nuts, 1 cup of walnuts. So cashew nuts, walnuts, raw if you can, because they're raw. They're better. They're raw. Well, they're not better. Different. There's more fats in them when they're raw. 4 tablespoons of nutritional yeast. If you don't have nutritional yeast in your pantry, get it. It's great.
It's tasty.
Mm-hmm. So 4 tablespoons of nutritional yeast, a little bit of salt, pepper, depending on how peppery you like it. I like it quite peppery, probably half a cup of lemon juice, and then water to the consistency you want it, depending on how runny you want it. It thickens after you've made it. So make it, maybe put it in the fridge, and it thickens up, and you can water it down. But again, for you, Jim, you probably wouldn't want to water it down.
You just put that in the blender then, do you?
Yep, jam it in the blender, whiz it up, and it will sit in the fridge in liquid form for a good 5-6 days. So, and it almost continues to thicken. So when I used it tonight, I just had a look in there. It was thick, so I just added a little bit of water, shook it up, and then over the vegetables. So it's a source of your omega-3s. If you're using the walnuts, it's got nutritional yeast in it, which if you happen to have nutritional yeast that's got vitamin B fortified in it, that's a good thing. No, thank you. What else was I saying? Oh, with the lemon juice, this is from Dr. Greger, Dr. Michael Greger, nutritionalfacts.org. It's about 300 times more vitamin C in the, someone help me? Peel. Yeah. So when I'm making, whatever I'm making now that's got lemon juice in it, I just put in half of the lemon, rind and all. So that helps to bump up your vitamin C as well. And it doesn't really change the taste when you're putting it in a meal or cashew nut. Yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, I've got a question. When you exercise, whether it be cardio or weights, do you need to eat after it, or can you leave that for hours and hours later?
If you're eating enough food at each meal, you shouldn't need to eat. Yeah, that you really, you'll know if you need to eat if you're losing weight, or if you're unable to get through a workout. So, but it may not only be food. You know, someone might be tired. There's so many other factors that push in.
Can I answer that? Just for myself personally, I used to have to have a protein shake or something after I trained because that's what I thought I had to do. Now, like today, I finished a back session, which is a big session for me. I finished that we were finished by 3 o'clock, didn't eat till 5. You know, and it's just not something I come home now and I fuel up because I feel I need to. I've got over that point of my head tells me I've got to eat, so I feel, lethargic or whatever. I've just got over that stage now. So I don't need it. I'm obviously eating enough food. Jim, obviously, you're trying to keep your weight on, so you'd be eating as soon as you can and just keeping yourself fueled up. But if you're carrying body fat, you don't need to eat straight away after a workout. You've got food there on your body, so it's easy. Just go condition yourself again.
Yeah, so body fat wise, I think you measure around 7%. But ultimately, if I'm eating enough a day, which I am, I'm trying to eat enough. Once I eat enough, it doesn't matter when I eat it. I can train 4 hours later or anything. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, the way the body is designed is, I just try and relate it back if you're in the jungle and if you had to go and run and get some food and you caught yourself, or you collected all your food and you did a big push and got all the food, and then you got to eat half of it before you get back to the tribe because you need the food because you've just done all the work. It doesn't make sense, you know what I mean? Your body has built up mechanisms over thousands of years to make sure you don't die before you have your next feed. So you'll be right.
And one of the things,
obviously not, but it's more about optimal. The question was on more optimal. What's optimal rather than survival?
That's hard to answer as a blanket rule. If you were an athlete, you may well need to eat before or after a meal. One of the things that maybe to think about is economically, if we think that we have to eat after a meal, what do most people tend to eat? What comes to mind?
Your protein powders, for example.
Yeah. So economically, that's a good business model because I've just finished a workout. I need this amount of protein. So that's where, and we will talk about it as the weeks go on. The more you look at the reasons why we eat the way we eat have huge implication when it comes to business. We eat predominantly with the food we eat is to make money. Yeah. Or it's to make us into consumers. It's not to make us healthy. It's to make us into consumers. And I don't mean that as a conspiracy. It really is that way because otherwise most of the money would go into healthy food. It wouldn't go into these isolated nutrients that send us all crazy going, how much calcium am I having? How much iron am I having? How much this am I having?
Yeah, how much protein?
Yeah, no, well, all of it. How much protein? How much this? I mean, hell, how you can't measure that. Yeah, it's almost impossible to measure that.
I should have probably finished what I was saying on. I've found no difference whether I eat straight after a workout or whether I wait 2 or 3 whether I wait 2 or 3 hours to a normal meal time. I haven't found any difference over this period of time, and I used to religiously do it. Now I don't. I haven't found any difference. So before I got off on my rant about how the body is
he was a caveman
built to survive, I haven't found any difference. So in my Christmas.
Wow, that's quite impressive. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So I haven't got my notes. Last week we touched on vitamin B12. So some of the nutrients that you need to, and I'm mindful of time, so we'll wrap up soon. Some of the nutrients that you do need to start to think about, I'm not suggesting you go out and buy supplements, but just think about it, is a zinc. Especially for men. Men tend to lose zinc more than women lose zinc. Zinc, calcium, iron. Women tend to lose iron more than men lose iron. What am I looking for? B12, which we sort of touched on last week. And iodine, which is in salt, yeah? Or you can have a supplement. And vitamin D. So you got vitamin D, iodine, iron, calcium, B12. Zinc. Wasn't sure if I'd said that is zinc. Almost, apart from vitamin B12 and vitamin D and iodine, my brain's working hard to remember all these things. So apart from vitamin B12, iodine, and vitamin D, the others you can quite successfully get through food, unless you are at a real deficit. Yeah, did that make sense? So vitamin D we get from the sun. Vitamin D is actually more of a hormone than it is a vitamin, but we call it a vitamin. So it's the process. The sun hits my skin and I'm like a plant. I photosynthesize and there's vitamin D. Yeah. Is that good, Tara? Is that how you know vitamin D? Like a plant. So iodine, again, that's a mineral that has to come through a food or a supplement source. Again, like I said, I'm struggling with that one at the moment because I'm pretty sure I'm not getting enough of it. So iodine's something to think about. Vitamin B12 at this point, they blanket for everybody, not just vegans, vegetarians or whole foodies, everyone. You get it through meat because meat eat the plants and there's a little bit of bacteria in the meat when we eat it. So that's how we get it through animal products, supposedly. Yep. Zinc, nuts, sunflower seeds are huge in zinc. About a quarter of a cup is about half your daily recommendation. So sunflower seeds are actually meant to be a much more nutritious food than nuts. Nuts are good. Nuts are higher in fat, but seeds have higher vitamins and minerals in them. So they tend to, I'm not knocking nuts. Nuts are great, but seeds are a really good food. So especially you, Jim, or all of you, I add just half a teaspoon of seeds, generally sunflower seeds, to my meal, whether it be oats in the morning or my whatever I'm having at lunch or at dinner. Iron, lentils, beans. Lentils are huge in iron. Spinach, a lot of people will think of spinach when they think of iron. But the thing with spinach, I can't remember what the word is now, but the thing with spinach is it's very hard for our bodies to apparently digest. So if you do like spinach and you struggle with spinach, is to have it with a vitamin C source. One of the highest vitamin C sources is sesame seeds. So again, in my little workspace in my kitchen, I've got a little container of sesame seeds and sunflower seeds. So I'm just half a teaspoon on 2 meals a day.
Do they have to be raw, the sunflower seeds?
Yeah, generally you have them. Yeah, so that's an easy way. For the zinc, men lose quite a lot of zinc when they ejaculate. Yeah, so when that's why men lose it more than women. And obviously women lose iron because they bleed each month with their period. So that's something to, that's some of the reasons why those things go. What else did I say? Calcium, all of your vegetables have calcium in it. Sunflower seeds is a really, really easy way to get it. For us, it's a really easy way and it's a really high way. All your greens, if you're going to lean into spinach, then just make sure that you have got a vitamin C source, which again is any other vegetable or fruit, really. So that aids with the digestibility. All of your lentils and beans, you must soak them to help them digest. Otherwise you may get a sore belly from them. So the red lentils, you can normally cook those without having to soak them. But other than that, you need to soak them. Done?
That's fine.
Yeah. All right. Any questions? How's everyone feeling I know that was a lot of information, and like I said, I'll touch up with an email. And all of those vitamins and minerals, there's information on the website. So do go in and have a look, and then you can also just flick me an email and go, hey, explain this to me more. But there's some really, again, in your food rules, because I haven't updated these food rules for ages. So in there, I would probably now have, and I'll go in and change it, in there I would have, when I'm having my breakfast or lunch, I have half a teaspoon of teaspoon of sesame seeds on my meal, sunflower seeds on my meal. So that's something that as I've learnt more, I've learnt how to add those vitamins and minerals into my diet. Whereas before I wasn't. Before I didn't have that. So I would have been lacking in that. So it's a progressive thing. So we're hoping that through our blundering through the diet, that now that we're starting to, I feel like I'm starting to actually get it right, you can just take all the information yourself. You know, you don't have to go and do, even though I do suggest you do read up on it. That's making me think of something else. If you do want to learn more about it, get Brenda, either listen to Brenda Davies, Davis. She's a nutritionalist. She is fantastic. She's probably one of the leading nutritionalists, and she just happens to be plant-based. She's got a really, I call it my Bible, and I do actually have a real Bible, but this is my food Bible. See this one? Becoming Vegan. That is whether you want to be, what are you laughing at, Morris? Whether you want to be plant-based or you want to have some animal foods in your diet, this is invaluable if you want to learn about food. It's about $55 for the book, and you can probably see on my tabs. It's one of the best investments I have. So I read that over and over and over. It tells you everything you need to know. Yeah, or everything I need to know anyway. And if there's more to know, you can enlighten me at a later date. So,
did you say that this Belinda girl is she qualified? You said she's a nutritionist or something.
Yep.
She's got qualifications.
She's one of the top. She's really good. So I would definitely, and she's also really because we all have our own opinions, but she's really, to me anyway, she's very unopinionated. She's very open. She's not one way or the highway. It really does feel like just information. A little bit like Dr. Greger. If you've not looked at Dr. Michael Greger, he too is very open, as open as anyone can be, I suppose, with his opinion. Whereas when you start to look at people like Dr. John McDougall, which I love, and he's got some really fantastic information. He's too old and knows too much he just says what he says, and it's the right way for him. And it's really good pieces of information. And I suppose, like, say, John McDougall and Neil Barnard, oh God, there's a heap of them, Cladwell Esselstyn, I'm imagining they're really opinionated because they're dealing with very sick people. They're not dealing with, especially tend to not be talking to health conscious people. Yeah, does that make sense? So that I think that's where that sometimes that harder line comes in, because when you are sick, you do have to knuckle down, and it does have to be way tighter. There's no leeway. There's no moderation. If you're sick and you want to get well, then you've got to do it 100%.
Do you get sick much, like in wintertime, like flus and stuff like that?
I had a cold. I'm thinking now, probably the year before last. I had a cold. It wasn't a bad one. I'm trying to remember.
It's more. I think myself personally, when I find out, I feel a little bit run down, and then I feel normal again. I say, I must have felt a little bit sick. So it's not like I still probably come in contact with whatever flu might be going around, but instead of it knocking me on my ass, I just might feel a bit offbeat for a couple of days, and then I come good again. And I'll look back and go, I must have been a bit otherwise tired, or I must have had a bit of that flu that was going around. But I haven't been sick
Yeah, that's a good way to put
for
it.
a lot, like as in sick, had to take. I haven't had missed a day in work for I don't know how long. So.
And before I changed my diet, I mean, I had mental issues. So, like, I had psychosis a couple of times in my adult life, and since I changed my diet, I have nothing like that. It's really profound. Also, something that I didn't really notice until just recently, my whole young life, I had abnormal pap smears, and then I had one begrudgingly. I hadn't had one for like ages, years, and it was the first time in my life I ever had a clear one. They were always abnormal. I always had to go back. So I was like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. Also, hay fever. I used to get hay fever in hay fever seasons, like before winter and before summer. In spring, I was on hay fever tablets once, at least twice a day. I don't have them anymore. So it really does. It really does have the power to help, to make you better. And also, you know, getting sick's not only about food. It's are you getting enough rest? Are you getting enough exercise? There's so many things that play into that. And probably not resting enough for most of us is probably a pretty why we get sick, a reason why we get sick.
Stress, rest, and it's also because we've been doing it for the amount of time we have and being so clean, our gut culture now would be really banging on. So, and that's a real big thing too. Once your gut culture is out, well then your body really strains in to get over any sort of sicknesses and stuff as well. So, it's just we'll put it this way: we've got to really think about last time I was sick and had anything wrong. So it must have been a while. Talking about that, so Jim, did you get your mail today? Did you get your?
Did.
Yep, cool. Will, you get yours as well?
Yep.
All right. So I've got the other ones arranged for Tisha. Yours is at the gym. The other ones I'm picking up tomorrow night from the doctor. So everyone else. So Kari, do you want your blood start?
Yeah, actually. I kind of forgot about it.
Yeah, so I just need your details through. If you could do that straight away after this, email them through. So I need your Medicare number, your doctor's name and address, and also your written consent that if there's any abnormalities in your blood that you will follow up with your doctor or with ours. And guys that have already gone, just make sure you get me a copy of your results sent to me as well, so I can tick them off, and so I just sit at another doctor's office somewhere, so we can actually get Dr. Rad. It's Rad, actually, not Dr. Rad. I spelled that wrong, but anyway, get his name to have a look at him as well, and so we can compare them. And that form is right for as many tests as you want. It's got a repeat there, so you can basically just keep taking that form back. Because I think I personally think you will see a difference in your bloods. It's only 6 to 8 weeks or whatever it might be, but and the doctors that I've spoken to, they recommend keep going back and just keep getting them tested. Every 3 months or so, and just keep an eye on it. If this is something you're going to keep doing, or even if you do stop doing it, go back and have another look again and just see if you've actually gone the other way. So, yeah.
Well, has anyone got any questions before we sign off? We're 7:45. No, all
So
good.
Christy's going to try and get the email for this web one out in the next couple of days, so that way you can get a bit of an earlier turnaround on any sort of questions. So if you can try and have those questions to Christy by no later than Sunday evening, that would help a lot, so she can have a read of them.
Have a look. Yeah. And if you have any, so ask questions, because that can also help me to lead us on to the next week's subject as well, because I really want to be talking about stuff that you want to know about. So maybe have a think about how much you want to go over the vitamins and minerals. Because it is important, but I also think that there can be a lot of time spent on it when it's quite... If you do have questions, this will be a better way to put it. If you do have concerns about your vitamins and minerals, do go and read about them, whether it's on our website or go and read about them, and then you're coming in armed with a bit of knowledge already. And then I'm hoping that I can then I can deliver it in such a way that you can realise that if you've put the work into balancing your diet, they're covered. So, and if you'll get the blood test done, and if there are some concerns, well, then that's when we go, okay, well, maybe you need to supplement, or maybe you need to eat more sunflower seeds every day, something. Yeah. And I didn't know that about the blood test, so that's fantastic. Keep that piece of paper, maybe laminate it and keep it, and then you can just keep having it done.
I don't know whether it lasts forever, but
if you laminated it, will.
But either way, we can do it again anyway, so it's not a problem. So, and also don't forget, if you are starting to use some of the recipes off the website, take a photo and share it for us, so we can actually see that.
Yeah, Tara did.
Oh,
and
cool.
Will, they were on there.
Excellent.
I suggested something on there about wheat berries. If you've not tried wheat berries, try wheat berries. They're really, really yummy. Jim, be careful, because they're like the base wheat.
Most fibrous you can get.
Fill ya.
Yeah, because that's one question I've got to look into, and I did speak to a running buddy of mine who's a gastroenterologist, is with fibre and hydration, because you go in the toilet so much, how much water you're losing. Because I find during the day, even in the last couple of weeks, I'm probably drinking 4 or 5 litres of water a day, and a litre of Staminade. And not passing water until probably 5 o'clock at night.
Okay.
With the humidity this time of year, it's not unusual. And the same with ultra long distance running, you should be passing urine within 2 to 3 hours after a really long run. But that's one of the things I'm interested in, is how much, because of the fibre, how much water you're actually losing, and how much extra you need to take on. Because gut long running and gut distress is not funny.
Have a look at, because I honestly know I don't know a lot about ultra marathons and stuff. Have a look at Richard Roll, ROLL, Richard Roll. He is an ultra marathoner. He's quite successful. There's another woman, I can't remember her name, but I'll find it and I'll flip her name to you. But Richard Roll is a whole foodie. So have a look at him, because he's got a website, and he's got the way that he talks about it. He's much more into the fats and stuff, Will, which makes sense, because he does like the days. Oh, sorry, Jim. He does like the days long runs, these crazy runs.
Yeah, Scott Jurek's got a book out too.
Of course, Scott Jurek.
And there's another one called The Law of Running, which is a bit scientific. Richard Noakes. But again, he that's a bit old school, but he has updated some of his theories.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll have a look into Richard Roll and see what you think about him. As well. All right. Is everyone happy?
There you go, Max.
Not bad, Powers. Finally got a chance to hook in, get it ready.
Good stuff.
So, very much don't struggle in silence. So if you're having problems, let us know, because otherwise you're wasting time. Yeah, so if you're having problems, ask. Don't wait till the next meeting. Yep, just
where do we go to upload photos?
So Trainer Eyes, you can put them in through Trainer Eyes. You can, I know you're not a social media person, so even if you want to text them, you can text them through to me, just through there, and I can throw them up on Trainer Eyes if you can't work it out, or I can even just post them on a post for us, or something like that. So, yeah, Trainer Eyes, you can do it. We've got a group set up, so cool.
Okay.
All right, guys.
Happy eating.
Sleep well. No, not before meal time now.
See you
Coming
later.
in the morning. See you
Cheers,
guys.
guys. Good night.
Bye.